All right, welcome everybody. Good to see everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. This is a curriculum committee meeting of the San Benito CISD Board of Trustees. I call this meeting to order at 5:31. We begin with public comment. Before we begin, I remind our audience members of the board's procedures for handling public comment. The public comment portion of our meeting is available to members of the public who wish to address any topic. Anyone who would like to speak during public comment must sign in prior to the start of the meeting and list the topic or topics they want to discuss. Each public comment speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board for each topic. If more than 10 speakers are signed up to speak on the same topic, all additional speakers on that item shall be limited to 2 minutes. However, any public testimony speaker who requires a translator will receive up to 6 minutes to address the board. Please keep your comments or criticisms civil and courteous. Please avoid using profanity and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Lastly, we ask that you do not discuss students who are not your own children. If a speaker is seeking board resolution of a specific complaint, that concern should be addressed through the district's grievance process. District policy DGBA has been established for addressing employee complaints. Policy FNG is the avenue for filing parent complaints, and policy GF addresses community member complaints. Grievance forms may be obtained at any campus administration office or the district's central administration offices. Our first speaker tonight is Ms. Mary Maney. Ms. Maney, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno, Superintendent Savion and board members. I've got tonight a very short list, but I wanted to start off with some thank yous. We ran last week, we ran our Murphy 6.0 over at Bobby Morris Stadium. And I really do want to give kudos to our custodial staff and our maintenance department, because Roy and Daniel actually came out on their own time to help get us in there, since we had a mix up on times and some confusion. But, you know, very kind, very helpful. Anytime you need to ask something, there's somebody there to help with it. So good example of we're there for the students, and, you know, they don't get anything out of it other than Roy stood around for 3.5 hours and watched us run around in circles. Also would like to thank our Gear Up department. The cohort is the 11th graders right now, and I am currently running a financial literacy innovation cadre that they asked me to do, and I'm doing it with all of our students, where it is a competition that the kids get a chance to actually create a salary-based budget, and it's pretty structured and all that. So it's one of these that this is something that really want to thank Gear Up for offering me the opportunity to actually do it in class and offer it to our students, because you're seeing more research coming out where UT, Texas A&M, Baylor, some of these other major universities down here are complaining that the students they're getting don't know how to do a budget. They don't know how to do a check register. They don't know how to write a check. So we've got some financial literacy things that really do need to be addressed, and this is one way of at least getting to a few of them. So I really do thank Gear Up for offering us that opportunity to do this. And the other thing I have on this is, again, asking about consideration for the upcoming year. You have a pool for bereavement leave. Is there any chance, since we're having still problems with COVID and RVS and all this others, that we might be able to have a pool of days that they can go in if they are, you know, they're bad with it and they've got to go out? Because when we got hit with a lot of people at the beginning of the school year having to take their 5 days to do this, that, you know, come now, they're coming up with another batch of it. They don't have the leave to take. And, you know, it's kind of getting to be a bit of hardship for a few of the teachers. But, you know, if we had something just like on a bereavement days that, you know, if we met the requirements, we could actually dip into that pool for 3 days, you know, just enough to get, you know. So as I said, this is something it would be nice if we could think about, because as I said, it's kind of a hardship when we've got people that are having to take doc pay And, they were forced to take leave when they weren't really sick, and now that they're really sick, they don't have it to take. So again, I'm just making that appeal, and since I did see it on the agenda, I just want to make sure I got another word in on it. So thank you very much, and again, I do want to say, we have an excellent custodial and maintenance department here that, they don't get a lot of recognition on it, so thank you very much.
As always, thank you, Ms. Maney. All right, we move on to agenda items. Item 2.1, review and discussion of the clinical education affiliation agreement between San Benito CISD and Black Ridge Canyon Healthcare LLC, doing business as Treasure Hills Healthcare and Rehabilitation Center. Ms. Cervellon?
Yes, sir. We have Mr. Rosa here tonight with a litany of MOUs that we're going to review with you. So, Mr. Rosa?
All right, good evening, President Moreno, Superintendent Cervellon, and board members. Actually, I got several of these affiliation. Again, this is part of our health science and that we're continuing to promoting and putting kids out there. This first one is for our CNA. One of the things that, of course, I've challenged my teachers to get the kids out there and expose them to different facilities. So they've had a chance to go to the hospital, go to the nursing home, go to the rehab centers. We don't know where they're gonna wind up. Who knows, they might find something there that they like. So this is, again, one of the other affiliations that we have set out for you guys.
Okay, any questions, board members? Agenda item? Next item, 2.2, review and discussion of the clinical education affiliation agreement between San Benito CISD and Starr County Hospital District, doing business as Harlingen Nursing and Rehabilitation Center.
All right, once again, another affiliation. This is, again, for our CNA. It's a nice, good-sized group that Mr. Cantu deals with, and we try to get as much exposure. Again, another affiliation that we're going to hopefully agree to help our students.
Okay, any questions on this item, board members? Agenda item? Next item, 2.3, review and discussion of the clinical education affiliation agreement between San Benito CISD and the Medicine Shop Pharmacy.
All right, now we're getting into our farm techs. Pharmacies are not very big, so they can only handle one, maybe two students at a time. So we've got quite a few affiliations that we did that, but because we have 10, 12 students that are gonna be doing their clinicals and rotations at this time, I said, you know what, put them all in together. Let's get all the pharmacies around, and hopefully the school next door doesn't take some of our spots. So we're jumping ahead on those things. So Medicine Shop is just one of them.
Alrighty. Any questions, board members? Okay, next item, item 2.4, review and discussion of the clinical education affiliation agreement between San Benito CISD and Care RX.
Another pharmaceutical tech affiliation that we're going to set out for our kids.
Questions, anyone?
I have a question, Mr. Rosas. When the students go to work there, like at the pharmacies, do they meet, or when they graduate, do they have like some sort of a certificate?
Yeah, there's a certification for pharmatech. It's a, I want to say PNC, but it's a pharmaceutical tech certificate. That's what they're working towards.
Awesome, thank you.
And just for clarification, in case I missed it previously, items 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 will become agenda items. Item 2.5, review and discussion of the clinical education affiliation agreement between San Benito CISD and Salinas Pharmacy.
There you go, another farm tech affiliation that we're having there. We're making contacts with everybody in town, and it's nice to see that our businesses are very receptive, and when they see the kids come in and work, it's like, next time you have some more, send them over.
Questions?
Is that both? Salinas Pharmacy has one here in San Benito and Harlingen, right?
I don't know if it's gonna go to the Harlingen one. It just depends on the transportation and getting back and forth between it. So
Okay.
locally, it makes it a lot easier.
But that MOU
Yeah.
does
yeah.
qualify both.
It'll fall for both.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Agenda item. Item 2.6, review and discussion of the clinical education affiliation agreement between San Benito CISD and Harlingen Pharmacy.
Once again, one of our farm techs, okay? We're keeping them busy this year,
Good.
which is good. I'm glad to see that our farm tech program is growing.
That's awesome. Questions? Agenda item? Okay.
On the Arlington one, how would they get,
You know, it just depends, because sometimes if they do a weekend rotation, then they'll take them, they go with their parents or they get dropped off over there. If it's during the week, sometimes we have a bus that's going to the hospital, ahí cerquitas van en, los dejan, yeah.
Okay,
We
that'd
try
be
to
ki-
make arrangements for, to help them out so they can get their hours.
Good. So item 2.6 becomes an agenda item. Item 2.7, review and discussion of the clinical education affiliation agreement between San Benito CISD and Fry's Pharmacy, prescription
Particularly
pharmacy.
Fry he was really good about, like I said, anytime you have any of your kids, just bring them on over. So again, one of our farm techs.
That's awesome. Questions? Agenda item. Item 2.8, review and discussion of the clinical education affiliation agreement between San Benito CISD and Walgreens Pharmacy.
This one is huge, again, for a farm tech, because, Walgreens is all over the place. So when they go in and get a reference letter, hopefully they get a reference letter from them, can pretty much get a job in any of our Walgreens around. So
That's great.
that's a good one, again, for our pharmacy tech.
Questions? Okay, that also becomes an agenda item, and kudos to y'all for reaching out to all these pharmacies and getting our students these opportunities. Great job. Thank you,
That's the name
sir.
of the game. Thank you.
Okay. Item 2.9, review and discussion of the education affiliation agreement between San Benito CISD and the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley Counseling Program. Ms. Cervellon?
Yes, I'll ask Mr. Irizudis to come forward, our Director of Counseling.
Good evening, Board President Moreno, esteemed board members, Superintendent Cervellon. This item is basically something that was done usually, and it kind of didn't happen during COVID, just because of the contact and the non-contact. But we've had this ongoing, and basically what it does is it provides the hours that interns that are going into school counseling need in order to get certified. And so we work hand in hand with the university to make sure that they get the right experiences and that they complete the hours in their practicum and/or their internship.
Board members, any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Irizudis.
Thank you all.
This becomes an agenda item.
Sir, good evening.
Thank you. Board members, item 2.10 will be pulled from the agenda. Item 2.11, review and discussion of the 2023-2024 school calendar. Ms. Cervellon?
Yes, we have Mr. Gonzalez here tonight, Luis Gonzalez, our Director of FACE, that will be in person, and we also have Dr. McGee virtually. They have been spearheading this effort for our calendar, instructional calendar for the 23-24 school year.
Okay, good evening, Mrs. Cervellon, President Moreno, board members, and members of the general public. What you have before you, we're gonna present two drafts that were created by the Superintendent's Advisory Council. Actually, it's the subcommittee of the Superintendent's Advisory Council, which is comprised of administrators in our district, teachers, and other members in our district. What we did is we had a series of meetings. One, we had like a kind of like a wish list meeting where we looked at all the area calendars. We looked at some of the other elements that we need to look at when creating a calendar. So there was a series of meetings, and it involved teachers, which is very important because when we look at the calendar, it is focused on instruction. It is an instructional calendar. So that's the way we approached it, and I think we came up with some really good options. So what you have in your packet, you have a comparison chart, and you also have the actual two drafts of the calendars that were finalized by Dr. McGee. And so, but it did take it did take a good amount of time to create these two drafts that we will present to you today. So what I want to do on the comparison is I want to address the bottom part. We want to look at what the commonalities are. What is the things that both calendars have? So one of the things we have to look at is making sure that we have 187 days calendar that'll address the teacher contracts that are required, or the number of days required, and also the number of hourly staff that follows a 187 schedule. Both calendars include the Texas requirements for a minimum of 75,600 minutes of instructional time per year, which on our calendar works out to 172 days of student attendance. Both calendars also include the STAR and EOC and other TEA assessment dates, so those are the commonalities of there. The other commonalities of it is the first day for students is Monday, August the 14th. Both calendars have that. The last day for students is Thursday, May 23rd, and then graduation day on both calendars is Friday, May the 24th. So though both calendars contain all those elements in there. So what I'll do now is look at the comparison in the red section and the blue section that you have on top of the chart. The new teacher orientation, these are the teachers that we hire in the district that are coming into the district, they're new to the district. We have 2 separate days that are aside from their 187 contract days. On calendar version A, we have the July 27th and the 28th. On calendar B, we have new teacher orientation set for August 1st and August 2nd. First day for teachers, and when we look at the 187 requirement, they begin on version A is August the 1st. First day for teachers on version B is August the 3rd. Then we look at what we're titling is staff meetings, staff development. On calendar A, we have 5 designated days. Those are designated for district convocations, district staff development, and campus and department staff development. Those are the days we set aside for those activities. And those are the dates that are set there, August 1st to the 3rd, the 7th, and May 24th. That's on calendar A. Calendar B, we have 7 of those days, and so those dates are listed there, August 3rd through the 4th, August 7th through the 8th, October 9th and 15th, and of course, May 24th. But what this calendar version offers is exchange days, and by that we mean a few years back we used to have exchange days, and it would give the staff the opportunity for the staff development that's scheduled for October 9th and January 15th. If they are able to attend summer staff development during the summertime, and they make up those 2 days, they can waive or exchange the days so they can take those days off. And those will be only October the 9th and December 15th. So we're bringing, in that calendar, we're bringing back the option for teachers to do exchange days so that they can use those accordingly. What's also new and what I think is great, when we're looking at an instructional calendar, one of the things that Mrs. Servillon and Dr. McGee were adamant about or very supportive about is implementing staff planning days. The staff planning days are just that. They're not staff development, they're planning days to look at fine tune on their campus by grade level. They're digging into PLCs, anything that looking at what is the campus focus or what is a grade level focus. Those are the 2 days. Well, on calendar A is we have 2 days set aside, August 8th and 9th. And then on calendar B, we have 1 day, which is August the 9th. Also introduced there is what we got feedback from teachers was that traditionally every calendar we only had 1 work day. And by work day, we mean those are the days that teachers get into the classroom, prepare, get everything ready for the students. But what was also happening, half of that day was the meet the teacher. So they actually just had 1 or half day and then half day to do meet the teacher. So one of the things that teachers were very adamant about was implementing more work days. So calendar A offers teachers 4 work days, which would be August 4th and the 10th and 11th. And there would be another one when we return back from the Christmas holiday on January 8th to prepare for the new semester. Then on calendar B, the teacher work days would be 3, and those would be the 10th and 11th, and then January 8th as well. What Mrs. Servillon and Dr. McGee were also very adamant about is implementing what is being called San Benito CISD staff learning days. On calendar, those would be inclusive of campus and department staff. Those will be days that are designated, kind of like stops during the year to see where we're at, what do we need to do, what kind of staff development, what kind of training do we need to do for our staff. It can be safety, it can be instructional, whatever it is that the district decides to focus on, then those will be the days there. So they're kind of like time off days, not time off, but coming together days. And students would be off those days. So we're looking at both calendars have September 22nd, October 27th, January 26th, and February 23rd. So those are the variations of both calendars. I know that we looked at several districts and we looked at everything. And this is what the committee kind of looked at, because we want to go ahead and kind of spread the wealth in terms of days off through the year. I know that mentally, teachers and students need that recharge day once a month so that they can be focused again for the next one, because it just allows for us to refocus and be back on track. So I'll open to any questions or any follow-ups on the calendars.
Mr. Rayon, on this calendar, as far as this agenda item or this item on this committee meeting, we don't need to approve anything, and it needs to go up for a vote with our teachers and staff. I guess one of the main questions that I want to ask is, the debate has always been, my understanding as a school administrator, this is an instructional calendar. So there's always been debate as to who gets the opportunity to vote on the calendar. Is it just the teachers and administrative staff? Do we include maintenance? Do we include custodians? Or because of the fact that it is an instructional calendar? So how is that handled here?
Well, we include all staff.
Okay,
All
good.
staff has an opportunity to vote for the calendar. And typically, we do not bring the calendar to you until we have voted on it, et cetera. But this time it was requested to bring it to you, so we are going through the actual intricacies of it so that you will understand that a lot of work, a lot of input went into it. We also contemplated other things because we saw people taking another fall break, and we thought about that, that's October, November, December fall break, that's a lot of time. And then also, if we did something that drastic, we would want our parents to also give us their feedback and our community give us the feedback before we make such a drastic, shift. But then we started talking about the integrity of instruction. We started seeing a lot of the data that was coming out about the 4-day weeks, about, an additional week off. And so we thought, well, you know what? Our teachers have been really voicing that they need more time together to plan and to discuss and learn. So the fourth Friday, and you'll notice it's the fourth Friday on each of those months, would be that time that the kids stay home, and parents know they have their kids at home those days, and then the teachers have a time to roll up their sleeves and get together and plan. Dr. McGee, did you want to add something? I know you're virtual. I see you. Because she was also really,
Hi, how are y'all doing?
there she is.
I'm sorry, I'm so inappropriate. Good evening, Board President Moreno, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Servion. Thank y'all for having me this evening. And yes, first I want to thank the members of the subcommittee for all of their hard work. Without them, the calendars wouldn't have been possible. So I want to give my appreciation. Also, just because of a quick concern about the 4 Fridays, one of the questions that did arise was about our paraprofessionals and then other staff. And we wanted to ensure there are two things. First, we wanted to ensure our paraprofessionals also need professional development. They need to gather with each other and also learn from each other and to get learning based on their needs. So they will be included in 4 Fridays. And then in discussions with Mr. Gallegos, depending on which calendar the staff, selects and then ultimately the board approves, we would also look at a possibility of, on some of those weeks where there is a short week because of the 4 Fridays, is allowing hourly staff to get 40 hours, like a 10-hour day. So they would get their 40 hours and be able to take the Friday off because students would not be in the district. And so those are just possibilities that are available through the calendar choices. Thank you.
Any other questions, board members?
I'd just like to make some comments. I really appreciate the thoroughness of this and presenting it to us before it goes out for the votes. I know that last year, some of the issues were like, there were too many choices to choose from, and it was just, and I really do appreciate the two drafts that are here in front of us today. I did have a question, but Dr. McGee answered it for the paraprofessionals on those fourth Fridays. And are those 4 Fridays gonna be, are you gonna have guidelines basically on what's gonna occur on those days? Or is there possibility to make like tutorials those days, or absolutely no children on campus, students?
There'll be no students on campus, but I think we want them a little fluid to see what's going on in the district and see what needs are arising. So we have we have an idea of what we want to do, and we will structure it so everybody gets the same level of support. We even discussed, half-day planning, half-day PLC, so they can go back and plan as well and have a time to sit down with the other teachers.
And then one more thing that I did want to note on this, on those 4 Fridays, I would, since both calendar options do have those 4 Fridays, I would like some kind of announcement to go out to parents, because I know that a lot of work are already requiring parents to notify them when they're gonna need vacation days. And if they're gonna have the kids at home, well, they'll need to arrange some kind of childcare for those days, just so they can prepare ahead of time.
So these calendars do go out to the parents once they're adopted, not before, but once they're adopted, unless there was a drastic change, then we would have notified. I think what I like most about this process was we had so much input, because we had our committee, our subcommittee that went back to the campuses, and then they would come back, and we went to departments, and then they would come back with other ideas, and then that would be discussed thoroughly, deep conversations. And so I want to thank Mr. Gonzalez, Dr. McGee, the entire team. I mean, they were here late, like, it was over at 5, and we were here till 6 or 6:30, still talking about the calendar. Mr. Gonzalez, did you want to add anything else?
No, I just think that these are, I think, very strong, instructionally strong calendars that I think teachers are going to enjoy, because it's going to give them the opportunity to continue to revisit their craft and to adjust. And the thing is, we need to adjust. Like Ms. Avion says, each month we can readjust and see what is the trend that we need to start looking at. Is it attendance, behavior, whatever it is? That way it gives us time to adjust, and we can plan, like you said, together.
I do have a question. Is this subject to change before it gets approved, or pretty much this is what's going to be presented to the board?
These are initial drafts right now, and so I know that there will be any feedback that we get today, we will make those changes, those updates, and then it will go out to vote with the staff. Once that final vote is taken and either one wins, that'll be the one that's proposed to the board. And then at that point, I guess if there's any questions, the board can make any kind of adjustment at that time.
And when is that going to be submitted or approved?
I believe we're looking at this week, maybe the week of back from spring break.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Thank you.
So we will open it up for vote, let's say tomorrow. It's an electronic vote, but what we do for our certain staff, like maintenance, we'll go and have the paper copies, and they can select manually if they don't have a computer or laptop to access, even though we have some prefer to do it in that manner. So we'll do that too. And Mr. Saldana will make sure that we get everybody's input as well.
Any other questions, board members? Mr. Gonzalez, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Good evening.
Okay, we move on to item 2.12, review and discussion of course catalogs for the 2023-2024 school year. Ms. Arreon.
Yes, so we have Mrs. Cornett here tonight, and I know that she has one of our instructional coaches here too, just in case, our secondary instructional coach. Then Ms. Cornett is going to go ahead and walk us through this, and again, we have Dr. McGee virtually.
Good evening, Board President Moreno, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Cervellon. So before you, you have two course catalogs. We'd like to start off with the middle school one. And so one of the items addressed specifically in middle school, if you look on top of page 25, is that all intervention courses have been combined into two courses, RISE Reading and RISE Math. RISE is an acronym for Reinforcing Instruction Through Support and Enrichment. And instead of this being a 1 year, these intervention courses will last 1 semester. And so on page 25, you'll see the description for both of those courses. Okay? Any questions on that?
This was also based on input from our teachers at the SAC and then also back in the campuses, where if we're going to have any sort of instruction that includes interventions, that it be very targeted and very purposeful. And so that was something they brought to our attention, that sometimes we have these intervention classes and we don't think the kids are getting what they need. So we restructured that with their input, and we'll continue to build them. Again, that's going to be fluid depending on the kids' needs throughout the year.
So will these RISE courses that are semester level courses also going to simultaneously take care of the HB 4545 hours required by the state?
I would imagine that it would be able to. Those would constitute as time for those HB 4545 because it is an intervention, but I will defer to Dr. McGee
It is.
if there's any.
I think it should.
Yes,
Yes.
it should. It should.
Good evening, oops, sorry. Good evening, Board President Moreno, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Servillon. Yes, these courses will satisfy the requirements of HB 4545. And from your feedback, we can add that language into the course catalog before we submit it for final approval.
I think that'd be a great idea, so that way everybody's on the same page and we know that we're basically killing two birds with one stone, so that'd be great.
Perfect.
Thank
Just
you.
a recommendation.
Yes, sir.
I agree. Is there a class size cap on those classes, on the RISE courses?
We're looking at smaller groups for our intervention courses. That's something that we also discussed with the teachers, and also the way we're going to strategically place them. So that would be done again at the onset as we look at data. Again, we want to make sure we triangulate that data, look at multiple sources so that we can give the students what they need. What has happened also is sometimes when we cluster the students, some of them grow faster, right? Or some of them have a different need. So we want to make that a little bit more fluid as well. And they may be able to go from intervention class to intervention class or completely out of interventions.
When you work with it's not a master schedule, but with the class schedule for the middle school courses, is that the plan to have all the RISE courses, maybe like, for example, a third period, and that way it can be more fluid and they can flow in and out of wherever they need to be?
So in middle school, we have a 0 period or an AA period. That's a 30-minute period that we embedded in the middle of the day. That's also a time that we utilize, and that one would be really fluid because here the kids either get enrichment or support. Our RISE courses will not be done in that manner. That will be more static. And so we looked at the structure. We talked about a teacher, we want to make sure that we utilize all our teachers to support our kids. So it could be that a teacher's going to have one RISE section and then all regular sections or some of the regular sections with an honor section. So that way we have every teacher assisting us with a group of students that is highly qualified, of course, and effective.
So I guess that brings up another question for me. So now that you explained it that way, Ms. Cervellon, that, we may have an English teacher having a variety of courses, either honors or regular or a RISE. So I was, based on history and the amount of students who do not meet the standards on the STAR test, I was assuming that we would have a RISE reading teacher and a RISE math teacher. So that's not necessarily the case, to where it would be, if there was 8 courses during the master schedule, that they would be doing RISE all day long. That's not the case.
That's not necessarily the case.
Okay.
It's just also dependent.
Okay.
And it is going to be correlated to master schedule. It has to be. So, I mean, when we develop the master schedule, we have to be very meticulous with what we end up doing. I'm looking at Ms. Cornet, but she's elementary, she's like, yes.
I'm like, yes. Any other further questions? We can move on to high school? All right, perfect. So moving on to high school, a couple of highlights here. First of all, this course catalog had not been updated since 2018-2019 school year, so we have a couple of changes here. The first one, if you'll note, on page 52, we have the addition of AP Pre-Calculus. This is approved by the State Board of Education on February of 2023. Okay. Following, it will note on page 56, this is another addition here. There is the addition of the GT course, Gifted and Talented Interdisciplinary Studies Seminar, 1 through 4. That's for 9th through 12th grade students.
This is gonna take away one of their electives?
This is going to be an option.
Okay, so it's not a mandatory class for GT students?
Am I correct, Dr. McGee? It's not a mandatory GT seminar class? Or is that? Yes.
Good evening, Board President, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Servion. No, this is not a mandatory course. As a part of the work that myself, Mrs. Cornett, and Mrs. Rodriguez doing through the year, through this year, we did notice that the offerings for GT were minimum. So we did research and we found this option, students who may want to take this path. So as all courses, even if they don't make, the boards have to approve them. So we did want to include this option.
So let me address this question to you, Dr. McGee. So this is an option for GT students to take. Those GT students that opt not to take it, how are they serviced and how do they comply with the Texas Performance Standards Project that are required of them on a yearly basis?
So under the Texas State Plan, for gifted and talented students, we do offer GT students can have the option of taking dual credit, and they have the option of AP, and that requirements. What we've done this is each year, the requirement is that we make the project available. We have projects available to across the system. It's not so much to them, but that's that we available. But they they do take classes, they do take dual enrollment classes to requirements.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, that leads to my next question. So if I know GT students, I know they're very competitive. So how is this gonna correlate to grade points?
So, in turn, weights,
The credit's still the same.
They're talking about weight. This is not gonna be weighted at a 6. And we're looking at that system as it is. So, they're talking about weight, Ms. Dr. McGee. Or asking.
yes, this course, obviously, weights are changes to, weights with, course of board policy. So, currently, as the course will be off, will not be weighted.
All right, any other questions, board members? This also is not an agenda item, or you're ready to bring these up for board approval next meeting? Okay, so this does become an agenda item, item 2.12.
I did have 2 more things to add.
Yes, ma'am.
Can
I'm
I add
sorry
them
about
on
that.
there?
I thought you were done. I
I
apologize
just
for
wanted,
that.
no, it's okay. I just want to make sure. On page 79, we do have the addition of AP Computer Science Principles.
Page 79?
Page 79, And also another important thing to note on page 79 is the introduction of STEM career clusters and pathways. There's 2 new ones that are being added there. Biomedical sciences, that's one set of courses, and the other one is cybersecurity. Okay? Yes, 79.
We have the Principles of Biomedical Science Project Lead the Way course on page 79, but I don't see anything on cybersecurity.
There, it's, let me see if it's page 79.
We have Human Body Systems, also Project Lead the Way.
On the electronic copy, page 79 is just not there.
It's not there. Okay, well, I'll double check. I don't have
Yes,
the-
yes, board, sorry. Excuse me, Board President, Board of Trustees, Super Servion, those actually the courses that are a part of those days. We are re-introducing, the STEM, career cluster, and those are 2 programs already. And so the biomedical, sciences, actually, it does Project Lead the Way to count as a part of that program of, so you do see there, the biomedical science, and then you also human body system. So, in with, Ms. Rosa, this will be a great entry point for our students, given the foundation, that Project Lead the Way provides. For our cybersecurity, pathway, you also see those separate courses there, information, technology, and AP computer science principles.
Okay, we're missing those, that's why. They're not on 79 at least, page 79. They may be on another page.
Yes, ma'am, they're not in the draft, course catalog that we received, that cybersecurity, or what is it?
Cybersecurity,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
sir.
not on there.
Oh, okay.
So maybe
I'll,
just an
I'll check
omission.
with,
We'll follow up.
yes, we'll follow up.
Thank you.
I'll make a note here.
Do you have anything else, ma'am?
That's it, sir.
All
I'm done.
righty.
Thank you so much.
It becomes an agenda item. Thank you, Ms. Cornett.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Are there any committee concerns? Okay, we close this meeting at 6:13 PM.